this is gonna be a trick question. So, who has used the Rubin Science platform on data.lsst.cloud? Raise hands. Fabulous. Who has used a science platform, not like a Rubin Science platform, but not a data.lsst.cloud? Summit, USDF, IDEX. Excellent. Very good. Who? That is the other RSP. We can talk about that later. Who has not used any Rubin Science platform? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Ian. Ian is our IT person who's making everything work. Who is not sure whether they have used the Rubin Science platform? I always like to have the catch-all option. Okay, all right, okay. So you guys are experienced users. So we're gonna keep orientation to a minimum and go to questions and interesting stuff. So a little bit of a roadmap and general experience. So we are now in data preview 1 for 3 or 4 weeks now. It is delightful. It is really great. The long dark tea time of the soul of 10 years of construction is over, where we kept going, what will the users want to do? In endless meetings, user stories, requirements, reviews, and now we can just watch what you do, and it's so much better that way. Because that's a lot easier, and we can ask you what you want to do, which is also a lot easier. So data preview 1 is the first real rehearsal with real data and people engaged with actual SSD data, even if it's only ComCam so far. And so we see people with very realistic user patterns that we didn't actually see during the data preview 0 simulated releases. We have also noticed some things. For example, some of you are definitely seeing errors and you're not asking about them. So, you know, we can see people in the logs generating problems and nobody comes back and says, hey, I got this error, what did this mean? So the kind of thing, the request here is you're essentially a beta testing group for, you know, the DR1 to DR11 era reviews. We have, you know, a couple of years to really kind of nail down a really good, like, first year product for DR1. And when you guys like report issues, you are helping us. We are concerned that people are intimidated by the fact that, like, you know, you have to ask a question in public. If that is the case, you should this is the kind of thing that you should let us know. Like, are people not reporting things because they expect things to not work, or are people not reporting things because they don't want to take the time or shy? Anyway, this is something that we're trying to understand. So we have here a community science team, including Melissa and Jeff, whose main job is to make sure that you guys are happy and you know, comfortable in the platform. So if you don't feel comfortable saying something here in the big room, find them afterwards and give them some feedback. And I see Stephen's hand. Stephen. Adam, Stephen. The on button's on the side.
Comment on that. Our extensive experience with help desks is, I would say, 1 problem in 10 gets reported. And if you're lucky at a conference, someone will come up and to you complain possibly years later that something didn't work.
This is
so if you're getting any complaints at all, you have a very responsive set of users.
Sorry, take it all back. Apparently you're wonderful, because you're definitely exceeding the 1 in 10 limit. Okay, the other thing I want to say is, if the Rubin Science platform was a child, it's basically gotten to middle school. Okay, so it can, you know, like, it can feed, it can write, it can talk, it can do things. You can maybe leave it alone without a babysitter for a night. But it's still very early in its educational career. So as I said in the first opening session, we are committed to working on this platform until they take our computers away. We are planning improvements throughout the duration of the 10-year survey. A lot of these improvements are going to now be driven by real user needs and real user requests. So the capabilities of the platform at this point are really kind of, to quote our product owner here, Gregory, not completely embarrassing stage. So just want to say that the roadmap is extensive, but the roadmap is also a bit fluid, and we are definitely monitoring user behavior, user feedback, input from the user committee, any kind of data points that we have to guide our development, we are paying every attention to. Okay. Right. Before we go to a quick tour of the major facilities, does anybody want to say anything? Okay. Right. So this is what happens. I keep talking until there's a question. So excellent. Thank you.
Frosty asked for interruption. I'm here just to say thanks to Frosty and the whole team. To be honest, I'm super impressed. I filed many issues and tickets and all that, but this is super impressive for a survey that hasn't even started to have a science platform at this stage.
Thank you. That's great. And every time, okay. Every time we get a compliment, our velocity increases by 1%. So keep it coming. Prove me wrong. Okay. All right. So, oh, yes. Thank you. Question.
So I have I have a question about let's say I am a user. I have used RSP for a little bit. I encounter an error. What is the encouraged path to report the error?
So happy you asked this question. Okay, so I'm not going to share my screen. Fantastic. This is where I wanted to get to. Okay, so this is the homepage of the science platform, and it's very easy to immediately zero into the 3 things that you really want to do. However, there are 2 things you want to know about this page. Sometimes there is a banner. I can put a banner later so you can see what it looks like. The banner usually has information we want you to read, including like, you know, some new services available or things along those lines. But also handy are these links here. So if you, I'm not gaslighting you, we did actually fix the text this morning when I realized we hadn't updated it for DP1. But if you click on support, it will give you a link to go straight to the forum and open a ticket in the support category. Another thing that again, I'm going to say, I know as a user, I am like, is this just me or is this generally happening before I file a ticket? So things that we know are going wrong with the service, we do put up a banner for. And there's also a, okay, here we go. There's also a news category on the forum. And it's not a regular newsletter because I don't put anything out unless we have something to say. But if we do have something to say, there is a post, and that is usually advertising you on new services, any unusual upcoming into downtime, because we try not to have any downtime. And things of that nature. The kind of most important kind of weekly event is during Thursday afternoon, during what we call Patch Thursday. That's 3 p.m. Pacific to 4 p.m. We do roll out all the updates that we've worked on during the week. Some of them are user visible, some of them are not. And during the time, there is a banner telling you this is happening. And what the banner says is basically, you are welcome to continue using the platform. We don't kick people off. It's not a downtime maintenance. But just during that hour, don't report any problems, because it is likely that, it's not likely, it is possible that you have been caught during a service restart or something along those lines. So probably if you see a problem while the patch banner is up, wait to see if you still have the problem at the end of it. Aside from that, if you're seeing a problem, we kind of like to know about it. When you go and file a support ticket in the forum, Discourse will make some sometimes useful, sometimes pathetic attempt to go, there's been a question like this before, do you mean the same? Which will at least, give you a hint that this has been reported before.
So can I follow up? So
yeah.
I noticed when you were talking, you said file a ticket. So of course, those of us with the project
So
have a thought of that means. Jira, does the community have some concept of a ticket? Do you have ticketing, or did you just mean open?
sorry, I mean open us up. Sorry, that
like
I
a-
mean
like
I
a
mean
post on
post something on the forum.
Okay,
Yes.
and is there a
Um,
special category? for
Yes.
problems?
So I'll show you it one more time. So we go support. If you create a science support topic, it will go straight to the support category. And so if we actually look, let me see here. Okay. If you want to go to it the other way, there is a support category here, and there's a Rubin Science Platform subcategory there. And you can see I have read all of these, not from this computer. Don't think that I didn't read the ones that are still white. Yeah, and just file ahead. And it's okay to just have a question. Like it doesn't have to be a fault. You can just ask, how do I do something? And that's like totally fine. We all have the sense that we're working for AI overlords now. So asking a question to get an answer is perfectly fine. It's his content for a search later. So that's also fine. Okay, good, excellent. Oh, another one, yes.
I guess you just answered my question. So I was wondering about using something like ChatGPT to help people. So you're saying you're doing this?
Yeah, so there is an initiative by Lian's research group to do an indexed Rubin RAG, it's called, AI kind of search. We're also adding AI assisted search to documentation, not necessarily the thing that actually tries to tell you something that you don't have a way of knowing whether it's true or not, but it is much better at finding relevant content. So there's a bunch of things along those lines. Right now, frankly, there just isn't enough content to get. This is a very niche topic, backed by the entire Stack Overflow set of things. If you ask something hyper specific, like how do I use tab to query an object table at Rubin, you're not going to get a useful reply at this point, because there just isn't enough to feed the model.
You may very well get harmfully wrong answers at this point. They just the training samples are not adequate.
However, all problems are solved with time, so it's definitely on our radar. Okay, so going back to the yes.
Just have a simple
No.
question. If I were a new user and
Mhm.
I had my account and the data rights and I did that, and I found a problem, but I'd actually never signed up for a community account. So I go and I signed up for a community account. What are my permissions as a user with no credibility? Can I actually make a report?
Initially, when you first sign up, your first 5, I think, posts or something like that are need to be approved, and we try and approve those as quickly as possible. But we were forced to move to that model because of some incidents. Yes, let's say. So yeah. Have a little patience at first, but then after you've passed that sort of probationary period, then you're welcome to post, and it'll appear immediately. Thanks for asking, Michael.
And I'm going to say, after first light, I derived great entertainment from the moderation trap on CLO. There's a lot of people who urgently need us to look at a specific coordinate to find aliens and all sorts of things. I see Dave McKay's hand, I think, up on Zoom. Did I see that? Speak, Dave.
Yes, hi, Frosty. I'm taking notes. Things you're showing on data.lsst.cloud that we'd like to also be on the Rubin Science platform in the UK IDAC. And the first one is that support link. It'd be good to have some way for, I guess, other IDACs as well to let users report something initially to us, but also in a way that integrates into the support page that you'll see, or maybe that where the user sees questions that have been asked already
Mhm.
generally,
Mhm.
but are also able to ask us a question.
Okay, that is a great idea, and that's the signal for the note taker to write down the suggestion. Dave works for the UK data facility, the Rubin UK data facility, and they also have an instance of the science platform. His question was basically, if you're a user from that science platform, you probably want to go to their support first before being directed to the general support, and we can definitely customize what that support link does per deployment. So that's a great idea. We will note it down.
And we would also do that through the community forum as well.
Okay. Okay, sounds good. All right. Okay, so we're gonna very quickly take you through recent kind of newness in the major services. So we will start with the portal. Gregory here is both the product owner for the Rubin Science Platform and the lead for the portal team, which is the Firefly team at IPAC, which is an open source project used by many archives, including Rubin. He will just share his screen for a little bit and show us a couple of things. And I want to talk about some of the things that you might have not noticed if you were a DP0 user, but are definitely the case in DP1.
I think this is fine. I might, if I have to type, I'll put it down. But okay. So just to start with, a reminder of the philosophy behind the Rubin Science Platform presentation to the users. If you haven't heard this spiel from us before, there's the Science Platform vision document from some years ago, and we're still rather closely aligned with that idea. We talk about the Science Platform having three aspects: the portal, the notebooks, and the APIs. That language is meant to indicate that it's all one common thing, and you're just looking at it through different perspectives. So that the same data is available in each of the aspects. And on top of that, as is sometimes said in the IT community, we eat our own dog food. The notebooks and the portal rely on the same APIs that we make public as well. So when the portal does an image query, it uses the same image query interface that we make available directly to you programmatically. So I won't go into any details about what the APIs are. There's documentation on that. There will be better documentation in the future. And there are tutorials that will point you with that as well. So without further preface, we'll go look at the portal. As Frosty said, I'm the science lead or the product owner for the Science Platform as a whole, and I also lead the portal development team along with my colleagues at IPAC. So this is the DP1 view of things. If you haven't looked at it recently, the view has changed. So something like a year ago, we changed to a tabbed interface. You can see the tabs at the top of the screen tell you that you can get access to DP1 images, to DP1 catalogs, and then they give you some additional things that you can do. There's an upload tab, which allows you to upload kind of any file that the portal understands to use alongside the data that you've retrieved. And then there's a job monitor, which I'll highlight in a little while, which is one of these new features that Frosty was mentioning. The tabs are all selected from this sidebar. So there are many other things that you can do that we've included in the default configuration of the portal, but they're not displayed tabs by default. So you can bring up another one. So like DP 0.2 and DP 0.3 are still accessible.
I have a question. Is it the case that it remembers your configuration?
It does, yeah.
So if your portal does not look like this, it's because you've used it in the past, you maybe had a different configuration, but by
you
going
can reset your configuration.
You can reset your configuration and go back to the default.
Yeah, which I will do right now. So that's the default configuration there. We talked about getting support. So right now, when you click on this icon, the mouse over gives you the version, and then if you click on it, you get a little version dialog, and there's a handy dandy little copy to clipboard icon here. So if you want to report very precisely which version you were using when you found an error, you can click on that and paste it into your support message. I think I'll start with the HIPS search. So this is currently something you have to add to the sidebar. So these are the HIPS images that have been created for DP1. You can see there are single channel ones here for U, G, R, I, Z, and Y in this range here. And then there are also some 3-color ones with different band combinations that are mapped to red, green, and blue. And then there is a UGR ZI map that has been as a set of colors that was optimized for the first look images, which we're also making available for the DP1 data. So when you select one of those, you get a HIPS viewer, and so by default it comes up in a relatively interesting part of the image. You can zoom in. We go all the way down to where you can see individual pixels. This is HIPS images, you may not be aware, are in the HealPix space. These pixels are the same scale as the actual image pixels and are co-added image pixels. So this is 0.2, these are 0.2 arcsecond pixels. So you are seeing the full resolution of the data here. The Rubin generated color images use the hue preserving algorithm that most of you are probably familiar with, that tries to display astronomical colors as the same visible hues regardless of the brightness of the object, so that the colors are sort of astrophysically meaningful at a whole range of brightnesses. So that's a style that I think was pioneered on Sloan and that we're using. So if you see something that's red here, that really means it's red in an astrophysical sense. All right, so just to start with here, there are a bunch of different things that you can do. One of the interesting tools, there's a measuring tool which you can select. I guess I should slow down because of Zoom latency. So this was here in this tools menu. And so you can drag something from here to there. You'll get a readout of the distance in selectable units. So you can pick degrees or arc minutes or arc seconds. Also you can turn on an offset calculation that shows it as a triangle with the north and east distances added. So that's just one of the kinds of things I strongly recommend just exploring around to see what all the menu items actually do. There's a tremendous amount of capability here, especially when you're viewing VITS images. There's a lot more that gets turned on even than when you're looking at HIPS. All right, so now let's move on and let's look at a catalog query. So we have in this, so catalog queries are carried out via the IVOA TAP protocol for DP1, our custom QServe backend database, which is a database that's been designed to be spatially sharded and that will scale to the full data release scale. It's not even breathing hard to do queries for DP1 because the data set is so small, but we are trying to make sure that we're exercising it and that it can handle all the different types of queries that users can think of. In the table collection menu on the left, you can still get access to DP 0.2 as well. And then there are also some kind of community standard schemas here. I won't try to explain what those are right now. It's kind of out of the scope for this discussion. But we'll stay on DP1. When you look at DP1, you'll see all the tables that are available in DP1. If you've perused our documentation, you know there's also a schema browser that you can use to figure out what's going on here, but the portal itself is a very functional schema browser. So you'll see here already all the columns in the object table, which is the one that I've selected. There are many attributes to them. The quantities that have units are declared. For a subset of quantities, we declare IVOA UCDs. We're in the process of adding more of these. These are semantic tags that tell you what the nature of a column is. Over the course of the next couple of months, we expect these to be much more fully fleshed out. It's just a lot of work to go in and add these to every column. So that's something that we're in the process of working on. This is just the point is that when this is completed, you'll be able to like filter the columns here and say, just show me all the columns that are fluxes, for instance. That's the purpose of this. There's a data type, and so just to illustrate a portal feature, when you see in this field a little drop-down arrow, that means that there is what we call a category column filter available. You click on that, and this is familiar from Excel spreadsheets that have where you've set up a table or something. There's a set of the values that are available. So I'm curious, just show me the Boolean columns, the countless numbers of flags that we have in our data. So you can see there are huge numbers of columns that are just Boolean flags for each object, and then you can remove the filter there. So I won't go any further. We pre-select a subset of columns that we think are the most interesting ones. So let's go over here now and actually do a search. So there are some examples of the search syntax here, and they're clickable. So we can click on this. It gets substituted into the search box. Here we're going to expand the search radius, let's say from 10 arc seconds, let's do 200 instead, and then just perform the search. So once you have a tabular search result, you'll in general see that the display changes to what we call the try view, and what you have there is the search result on the bottom, and then in the upper right, there is a pane where you can create plots from the data in the table. And then there's another tab here called Details. This gives you a transpose of a single row of the table into a table. So you get a full description of just one row in the table. So if you change rows here, you'll see that these values change. So sometimes this is a very useful view if you're kind of overwhelmed by all the column names and by the width of the table. There's a question there. Adam, can you? Snuck up on you.
Could you go back to the active chart?
Yes.
And just my real question is, you did RA versus DEC, which is boring.
That's the
no,
default
but
block,
like you could do like G minus R and
absolutely
stuff.
We'll do that. We can do that in real time right now. Yeah.
I'd like to see that because not the second, but yeah.
Well, no, I'm actually.
You're not here for me.
So if you have knuckles, tap me on the shoulder.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let me just show a couple more things here. So there's so you'll notice I already had an image that I searched for, right? So that's what the pinned image is here. But there's always a coverage image, and the coverage image just uses a default HIPS image. In this case, we've chosen the monochrome R-band one as the default image. And so any table that you visualize will always have a coverage plot that's available here. You can change the organization of the screen by going to this menu that I showed you before. You go down to Results Layout, you click on this menu, and then there's a whole bunch of different ways you can organize your session, including ones that are just side by side, things like this, or you can, you can put the table on the left, and then all the other things on the right. There are many different arrangements that are available, which will be more or less useful depending on what you're trying to do in a particular session. So let's just try that experiment with the plot. So I'm going to give, yeah.
Click on one of those blue dots. Would it select the?
Oh, absolutely. Yes. Yeah. Then in fact, let me go back to the try view to make that point here. So there. So if I click on a row in the table, there's that row selected. There's a little orange dot there, and that point is also selected here. We can zoom in. There you see that one's selected. You can do, you can select regions here. And when you do that, you can choose between either filtering on what you've selected, so all the other points will be temporarily hidden, or you can just click on the check mark here, which will just check them all off in the table on the edge here. You'll see if we scrolled to the right place, you would see a bunch of check marks here. Yeah, absolutely. There we go. And it's always scrolls to it so that you can see where it is. If there's a setting here, pan by table row, when that's selected, which it normally is by default. If you click on a point that is not visible in the image, so you can see we're over here right now. If we click there, it will pan the image to center the point that you just clicked on.
While you do Kevin's request, since we're taking requests, I will say a couple of things. Number one, the portal is incredibly fully featured. It's also so fully featured that sometimes it's hard to find things in the UI, to know what's there in the UI. So there are portal tutorials done by our community science team in the documentation. But also I think we're planning to maybe start having like a, tip of the week or whatever in our newsletters to surface features like that. We are going to be putting more polls in the news announcements. I'm trying not to be obnoxious and put them in your banner, but maybe we'll do that too. Thank you to the 6 people who replied to the last poll, even though hundreds of you actually read the announcement. Please don't be shy. These are not fake polls that we do to drive engagement for our advertising partners. We generally ask because we want to know the answer. And there's always a catch-all. I don't like any of the options. You can always cast a blank vote. So if you have an opinion on one of the things that we ask you, please do actually, engage and give us the answer, and it helps. I know in the previous session, somebody said, do we get to vote on when the data releases are? It's not actually a democracy, to be clear, but it does heavily influence our discussions when we know what the users are actually wanting. So that would be super helpful. So Gregory, how are we doing? Yes.
A user on Slack named Robert Lupton wants to know if when you demonstrated the ruler measuring distances, if we had photo Z's for all of those objects, could it give us distances in megaparsecs, assuming some standard cosmology?
That's an intriguing idea for the
the architecture is very extensible. So it is possible to extend it with capabilities like that. That might not be the first or even the 4th on the list right now, but it is definitely the kind of thing that can be done.
We won't have a space program. We'll just look at things on the portal and it'll be fine.
Frosty was accusing me recently of always finding problems whenever I look at anything. So we've discovered apparently 35th magnitude objects here. So I'm a little skeptical, so that's something I'm going to go look at offline. But you can see what I've produced here. I clicked on the Add a Chart button over here in the left-hand corner of the chart pane. That's also new since maybe those of you who've worked with the portal in the DP 0.2 days. This is part of the rationalization of the user interface. And you get a dialogue from that looks much like this one. And you can see I was able to type an expression for the x coordinate, the g magnitude minus the I magnitude, and then plot the g magnitude on the y-axis. There's a scatter plot. You can select on the scatter plot. It's just like on the coordinate plot. Those points are sensitive. You can go, where is this strange thing with a magnitude difference of 10 and magnitude of 37? There it is. Someone will go look at why that's there in the data. But that's an example of that. And you can also make histograms and heat maps when you have a lot of points, when you have more than 30,000 points or so. Typically, you'd want to make a heat map rather than a scatter plot to avoid getting it too crowded.
What happens if you make a rectangular selection in the plot?
Same thing that happened before. You can checkbox them or you can filter on them. So
and if you filter on them, will it zoom out to show the image in only those objects?
That's what I just did.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. We could do the portal all day long, and maybe we should have. But is there any comments, questions on the portal? Eric.
So I totally take your point that there's like a bajillion different ways of doing things here. And I'm curious, because at Mass, we've spent some time playing around with our portal and thinking about the fact that users often get overwhelmed by all those options. And instead of finding those options or wanting to find those options, they say, screw it, I'm going somewhere else, right? You have a notebook aspect, so there's that answer. But on some level, some users at least just are afraid of all those options. Yes. Are you thinking about giving ways to give a more simplified interface or anything like that?
Yes, I will do it, and then you can diff my answer. So yes, the framework this is basically the kitchen sink portal, and we started from that because it's people believe you when you say you can make it simpler. They don't necessarily believe you when you can say you can put more features in. So there is a technical roadmap for maybe highly specific, not just simple, but just targeted interfaces for specific use cases. I know Gregory wants to talk a bit more about this. I will say that the one thing that DP1 has proved conclusively, that has been a huge point of argument for 10 years, that Gregory and I were not surprised, but it did go contrary to people's intuition, is that there is no such thing as a portal user, a notebook user, and an API user. We see levels of engagement from the vast majority of users with all three aspects, to the point where bugs were found. It turns out that if you do 1 million query histories searches, and then you go to the portal, and the portal tries to display your 1 million programmatic histories, you need to do some more work optimizing that. So we really believed that these tools would be picked up depending on what people wanted to do, and that people wouldn't pigeonhole them. And that's actually happening. And it's very like the data does not lie. It's very clear. Gregory.
Yeah, so we definitely have on the roadmap to add a set of simplified queries. So if you just want to type in coordinates and say, what's the thing that you have that's nearest that spot, we'll support that. If you have an object ID and you just want to that you got from a paper and you want to paste it in and find that thing, we will have an interface for that. The philosophy definitely was to deliver the power first, so that people who did want to go deep could do that. And then we would use tutorials to help people at first, figure out how to do simple things in simple ways. But we are going to enhance it with like additional kind of introductory query interfaces. And then there is something else that I did not get a chance to demonstrate. And I don't know if Rossi is going to get to this either. Well, no, it is related to notebooks. It's that we've put quite a lot of effort into making it possible to launch a query on one side and then get the results on the other side. So you can launch a query in the portal and access its results from a notebook. You can launch a query programmatically from a notebook and visualize the results in the portal. It works both ways.
That's really neat. I want to add one just note of warning to the philosophy you just described. There exists some subset, probably none of them are in this room because they wouldn't be, but there exists some subset of users who see the complicated thing and never go back and find the simpler thing, right? They're just sort of turned off by it. I shouldn't say never, but it might take them 5 years.
Yes. So
fair point.
So this is true, and I agree. I will also say that it's really hard for a project that was programmatically a separate construction project to satisfy, you go up to a review committee and the power users are there. And so one of the things that we want to do as we go forward is try to right size various things to users. This is why I was saying it's so nice to be in this phase now where, come October 24th, we're out of construction. The last review happens. We've been reviewed every year twice for the last 12 years. And it's going to be great to have the last one of that. And then we can be very user oriented as opposed to some requirements somebody, wrote years ago. Tony.
Yeah, so along the same lines as Eric was pointing out, I'm imagining the future AI interface. Hello, computer, please give me 100 examples of blah, 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 that would then go to this and give you 100 examples of whatever.
Oh, and Mario, all the way around back. Adam will get his steps in. And then I have a bone to pick with Mario, actually. So this is good. He reminded me.
Yeah, this is great to hear about additional specific user interfaces coming in. I know of a couple of groups that are interested in building user interfaces for fairly niche subsets of science. Is there a way for them to authenticate users? So the kinds of things that they would like to know is, does this user have Rubin data rights? And how do I make that query to know whether I can share my, in the old parlance, level 3 product with this user or not? Do you have, or
yes.
Are you planning to deliver something
so
like that?
There is, so let me tell you where, I think we were in late elementary school on that one, but let me, can somebody remind me the relevant DMTN number? So I don't have to search. Actually, I will search, because why not? Let's look at the documentation search. We're very proud of it. So on lsst.io, you will find a search portal for all the technical notes that we have written through the years. And this project has been superb at writing not just documentation on how to use something, but why we did something, why we planned it that way, what was the architecture, what were lessons learned. We write these things a lot, and so it's good. So there is a document, DMTN 253, turns out. There is a document that is basically designed for delegated data rights verification. Here are the I'll give you the kind of summary. So yes, we support external actors like independent data access centers to query us to see whether somebody has data rights. This is actually, I wish we didn't have data rights, but we do, and the data rights policies are actually quite complex, right? There's grandfathering. If you had data rights and then you go away, you may have data rights to one data release, but not to the other release. Don't shoot the messenger. That's what the policy document says. So, it is clear that we can't expect everybody to keep track of that. So there is a mechanism by which a data center can ask us whether a user has data rights, and this is described in this note. Now, the thing, and actually our UK folks, we had a meeting with them this morning. The thing that is, if you're thinking of doing this, it's not trivial, because we don't provide you with an authentication mechanism with a identity management system. So you have to keep track of who your users are and their identities, and the only thing you can do is ask us whether they have data. Oh, sorry, not. I mean, don't ask us with words. Your system can ask. We don't do words. No, your system can ask our system whether there's data rights. You then assume the responsibility of making sure that you're using that information in such a way that if somebody was off-boarded, you would actually eventually pick it up and that kind of thing. Yeah, so yes, in the answer to your question.
This document says IDACs, and I'm thinking about smaller groups, not full-fledged IDACs, just right. A couple of us decide that we can build this kind of interface and share data, and like, can we answer a binary question? Does this user at this time have access to this data set? And so does this document apply to everyone or just IDACs? And my second question is, you said you have it. Does it mean it's ready now? Can I go talk to someone to get plugged in? Or if not, when is it going to be ready?
So in a minute, I'm going to throw the question to Russ, who is actually the author of this document, and he's online. But let me say something first. You are technically minded. The average user, for the average user, the most reliable way to share something with other data rights holders is to share it through existing and future Rubin Science Platform mechanisms. Like if you do something in the Science Platform, like make it readable or give it some kind of group access, or is coming soon, publish a user catalog, which is also on the roadmap. That is the most low investment way to make sure that only data right holders see it, because anything that happens on the Science Platform will do that work for you, right? So the reason this is for aimed at data centers is because it is for people who have been granted the right to hold Rubin data, like a data release, and have to assume the responsibility of making sure that it is not abused. Ross, did you wanna ask field anything more technical than that?
I don't think so, but maybe I missed something that you wanted me to comment on.
Okay, no, just giving you airtime. So I'm not entirely sure. So you have a student turn up and you're wondering, yeah.
Sorry, Tim, we'll get back to you. Sorry about the discussion, but let's say Eric and I want to make an awesome user interface for variable star users.
All right, awesome.
And we have some light curves, added value light curves with periods that we produce that fall under data rights policy. And before we share that with any of our users, we need to figure out if those users have access to data rights. And we'd love to have if mjerk at uw.edu is authorized to access it. So is there an API I can hit to just give me that binary answer? Am I authorized or not?
Yes, provided you can verify that the user is who you say it is. Russ?
I'm not sure what you were thinking of, Frosty. So maybe you should expand on that.
Okay.
We don't really provide the
Mario
API in the
says
sense
is,
that I'm thinking of.
Can he hit an API that says, does so and so a data rights holder? And the answer to that is complicated because your definition of who so and so is may be different from our definition of who so and so is. So the way this authentication mechanism works is essentially it's like a web auth flow, right? Like when you sign up with GitHub, right? The idea is the user is forwarded to us, they log on against our system, they get a token, and that token proves to you that they have access to that data release at that point in time. So yes, there is a mechanism. I hesitate to say it's simple because it's not simple, because authentication things are never simple, but the mechanism does exist. Yeah.
I guess the thing that I would say is that if you're trying to determine if a small group of people have data rights access, I would definitely not do this. This is not designed for that. This is designed for data centers. Yeah. So if you just need to establish that a few users have data rights access, then the easiest way to do that would be to have them log onto the Science Platform and show, prove to you that they can log onto the Science Platform, which pretty much like that is a faster proxy when you're dealing with like a handful of people. Yeah. We don't really have the API that you are thinking of in the abstract because we don't track users in a way that gives you something that you would be able to query against. Like the fact that the user happens to have an email address is not really something that we can track down for you as being a data rights holder. The way we determine if a user has data rights is that we make them log in. So in order to use that mechanism, you have to make the user log in. And doing that by creating an OpenID Connect client is probably way more work than you want to do. It's probably a lot easier to just have the user log on to the Science platform and like touch a file in a directory or something, and thereby proving that they have access to the Science platform.
But I think Mario
This
wants
is the
it to
actual
be-
easiest way.
Yeah, Mario wants it to
ls/home.
Mario wants it to be a more automatic thing, not like show me a screenshot that you did it. What I'm wondering is, could the RSP act like when you log in via Google or you log in via your ORCID ID? Could you log in via the RSP, get the token, so then his system would use that authorization just as if you would use GitHub or something else?
That
would
is what
solve
the
the problem,
IDAC
right?
That's what the IDAC mechanism is for, but we definitely do not want to offer that as a general thing because it requires a considerable amount of work per client to maintain that. So it's really intended for IDACs. It's not really intended for every small research group that might want to do this.
If somebody wants to write a generic client to do this, that would be great. But you know, right now, like I said, if it's just a small group, ask them to log on. Look if you see it. Look to see if this is. I'm not using any. I'm just a regular user. I'm not using any privileged anything. So if you do ls/, you see everybody's usernames that has ever logged on. You know. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like I'm hesitating because there's no easy way to do it currently, right? You can either put some effort to do proper delegated authentication as described in that note, or you can do the cheap and easy thing. Okay, let me just say a couple more things. So in the notebook, new features, you already saw this. There's a new tutorials menu that replaces the old Git checkout kind of way of doing things. That has all the extensive tutorials prepared by the community science team. There is a Rubin menu. So we've tried to keep most standard Jupyter Lab functionality look like where it would be in a vanilla Jupyter Lab. So, but there's a Rubin menu that will be more extensive as we add more features. And the Rubin menu, for example, will actually show your recent queries that it pulls from your user history, and it will immediately prepare you with a templated notebook that if you run it, you will get the result of that query. So it's a very fancy, it's a very quick way to, okay, hey, there you go. Adam did that menu, in fact. And so we're planning a lot of things like this, basically bootstrapping lots of like, you know, here's some, you know, generate some code that is relevant to you from your, you know, by using services to be clever. The only other thing that we really care about is if you would please use one of those three options when you're definitely done, that would be great. It's not entirely necessary because eventually we will go and say this thing has been idle, we're going to kill it, but every time you cleanly log out, an angel gets their wings. So you know, do remember to do that. And contrary to what Gregory said, I will actually want to take a little bit of time to talk about APIs because a lot of, in terms of maturity, Firefly is in high school because it's probably taking its university exams because it's already a product that is used for other mature archives. Notebook is kind of in the middle. It's the surly teenager. It can do some things, but it will be able to do a lot more with a better attitude and more work ethic. Not thinking of anybody. And then the APIs are the smallest percentage of features done. The ones that are available right now, so I do see the hand, but let me just finish the point. The ones that are available done is we started with it would be embarrassing if we didn't have them list, which are the major VO protocols. So you can use Topcat, for example, to query our catalogs and so on from external, or PyVO and images. But these are the endpoints. But there's huge scope for extensive Rubin-specific computational services, like, for example, PSF retrieval service, bulk cutout service, you know, basically exposing compute through an API as a service is very much in the spirit of this thing. And then there are also things that are planned that don't fall neatly into one of those categories of portal, notebook, data access services, but that nevertheless are useful things that you might want to do. And there's two people in this room who said, Frosty, you really need WebDAV. WebDAV is going to be the best. And I rolled out WebDAV, I put it at the top of the list, and did anybody use it? No, they did not. So now I will tell you what WebDAV is and why you should use it, but there was a question, so go.
So picking up on Mario's sort of question, where's the dividing line between authenticating through just getting to log in and doing it through the IDAC-like service in terms of numbers of users?
I would like to think about that question, the answer to that question. I think it's a question of, do you have users or do you have a social circle? Right? If you know, this is my off the cuff answer, and I reserve the right to come back later with a better one. If you know the people, like you know who they are, they're within your Dunbar number, they are your collaborators and your collaborator students. I would say don't bother to do anything systematic, because you actually know when one of your students has left, gone to Ruritania, joined the Ruritanian Dark Forces, and should not have Rubin data rights anymore. Like, do you know your users, right? If you know your users, you can use fairly informal mechanisms, because you can actually, determine who they are by other mechanisms. If you are a data center that is taking on all comers, people who sign up with accounts, you have other data offerings, and so your users may be entitled to some of your data holdings, but not other of your data holdings. That is where I would say do some work. And the UK DAC, by the way, has been doing tremendous work trying to be the first people to implement a client or at least a template on how to do this, so that everybody doesn't have to figure it out for themselves. We just have no cycles to work on that like anytime soon. Adam, there's something in the back of the room, and then there's the front of the room. But let's go start from the back and work forward.
Hi, I'm Meg Schwalm, Queen's University Belfast. I wanted to ask about moving away from sort of logins. You talked about sharing things within the RSP. And so it was great to hear that there's ability now to make like groups or a shared folder. But I read that I can only have 15 of those, and then it stops having that. And so I can guarantee that the minute that we have our Belfast sprint for solar system, people are going to want to share things, because there'll be more objects than we can put onto a GitHub repo in a notebook. And so, one, why is it that we can only have about 15? Is there a way to get that number higher? And two, also, I have to manually go in and click like 200 names for our science collaboration members. Is there a way that that can be automated so that I don't have to be manually clicking? Is that something science collaboration chairs could be able to either get help with from the observatory? Because it seems like a lot of names when your collaboration is 200 or more people, if you have to have a shared resources, because we want to use the RSP, and that seems the best way to do it, because we might not be able to do these other authentications. Can you talk a little bit about both of those, if there's some support that can be given on that, and why 15?
Yes, okay. So the 15 being mentioned is the number of groups that any one user can belong to, right? And so it doesn't apply, for example, if you're in 3 collaborations, and you're in 3 groups of your collaborations and 3 groups of your private friend collaborations, like me and my enemy, and me and my frenemy, and me and my friend, that's 6. So just to make sure that we understand what we're counting here, right? And the limit to that is very simple. Unix has a limit of 15 groups before it starts truncating the group membership.
NFS v3 specifically. NFS v3 specifically.
NFS, sorry, yes. NFS, the network file systems have this limitation, and that is how currently your home space is being implemented, is a type of NFS v3 implementation, NetApp, but same thing. And that is why currently the limit is 15. Because literally, if it was more than that, your Unix command line would be unable to determine membership past that 15 point because it would be truncated. We can go to NFS before we try to do that. The provider that gives us basically that functionality on Google Cloud didn't have a mature enough offering at the time that we launched this, but we can go in the future. And then I believe NFS before has a much higher limit, which I cannot remember. So that's the answer to that question. It's 15 now. It won't necessarily be 15 forever. The second question of the clicking, I feel, yeah, we have to click every user who signs up. So if Heather is here, who's the person who's approving most of your account petitions, she has to click many times per user. So the answer to that is there is either there isn't an API or we don't necessarily know how to use the command API yet. Russ, which one is it?
It's a bit of a combination of both, but I think there is a co-manage API available for it.
Right.
But like figuring out the way that you would, the question is, how do you identify the 200 people that you want to add?
Yeah. So I think the actual question is how you actually populate a group with those 200 people.
No, I know, but that's what I'm saying. The problem with using the API is that figuring out which 200 people to poke the API with is the tricky part, and that's what we're not entirely sure how to do.
So this brings us to a related point. I'm not I'm going to circle back to answering your question, but this brings us to a related point, which is that we don't actually have your authentication information. We delegate your identity management to CR Logon, which is the thing that allows you to log on with your university account. So this has basically two implications. One of them is, for the love of God, have more than 2 identities associated with your record, because if you leave your current university and you never set up any kind of other alternative method of access, we cannot reset your password. We don't have any of that information. We don't hold any of your actual data. And so that is kind of the flip side of that. In terms of science collaborations, I have to say my recommendation is you find a person who doesn't have RSI yet, and you're trying to maintain reasonably common collaboration groups that can be used by anybody in that collaboration. Like don't go collaboration people starting with A and collaboration people who graduated and collaboration with their students. My advice to you would be maintain a membership list. Somebody has to do the clicking right now. I don't have anything in the immediate roadmap that will actually help you with that, but let's make sure that not everybody has to do the clicking, like delegate it to a admin, membership secretary, whatever, and do one per collaboration. Have somebody responsible for making sure that their members are still around and exist and fulfill any criteria that you might have for membership in a collaboration, and then tell everybody to use that group. That would be my assessment. And this is particularly going to become relevant if we get to the point where we can offer collaborations, certain pooled facilities, disk space, whatever, will want an enumerated list of groups that have collaboration members, member names in it.
I may understand where the disconnect here is. The way I think we envisioned in the RSP these groups to be used, it's for permanent long-term collaborations. And I think what Meg is saying is, are these groups for ad hoc collaborations? When I have a conference, can I create a group for 200 people at a conference?
Can somebody who is not me, because I have admin privileges, so my screens look very complicated. Can somebody who's not me actually share their screen? And if you have an RSP account on Data Velocity the Cloud, then we can actually show how you create an ad hoc group. Or I guess I could show the documentation as well. But that's boring.
Maybe this would be thought of as a feature request for the future. That I think what Meg's trying to point out is that it's very difficult to make these ad hoc collaborations now through clicking through potentially hundreds of people, and especially if you have only an order of 15 or so groups you can be in. Maybe we should just advise the users that this may not be the thing they want to do, because they're going to run out of groups within a year.
Okay, you can actually create a self sign-up group. It's on you if you do that. The system will allow you to create a group that anybody can join. Okay, so you can do that. So that what there, okay, pretend you're me. Okay, now you have, let's state this problem from I have to solve this problem point of view, right? So there are two things you can do, right? You can control membership, right, to make sure that nobody who is not your bud is in that group. To do that, you need to know who that person is, like beyond out, and only you know that J Smith at whatever is the guy you want to give access to your group. So you can do that. The penalty of that is you have to tell the system that that person is entitled to access to your group. You can also create a self-sign-up group and say, hey, everybody in the solar system collaboration, go and join this group, okay? Which you can do, but then you lose the control of being the gatekeeper to who is on that group. Maybe you want to do it by inspection afterwards and kick people out who are not on there. I don't know, man. I want all my data to be open, so I don't spend a lot of time thinking about this, but that is technically an option that's available to you now. And thirdly, you can have a hierarchical group, which is also available now. And so, for example, I'm going to give you an example. Where there's a Rubin staff group, and members of that group are the community science team group and the data services group and the developers group and all that kind of stuff. So you can ask also people to self-organize, create a group for, I don't know, all the MIT people or something, and then add that group, and that will involve delegating, crowdsourcing the membership of that group. That's like literally all the options that can be had, and it depends on your trade-off between you can either do work to be closed, or you can be more permissive and do less work. That's literally the trade-off. Michael, did I see a wavy? Oh, sorry. It's Chris. Okay. All right, good.
So this is a.
I would like to show one thing before we run out of time, though. So go. Clearly, this is the next time we'll have a topic just for this issue.
Related to users also, which is something I've been wondering about, which is a problem those of us at universities often have. So you have a student. This is a very normal thing. People might come just for the summer, for example. I might have a high school student who's working for me in the summer. So I need to go through the process of making them an account somewhere. So for example, this happens at NERSC. And then it's a problem because they have no concept of this person is only here for the summer, and for the next 15 years, I get emails asking where this person is. So do you have some way to make kind of temporary accounts or closing them? Like, what's your thought process?
So I'm gonna give you the gets me fired option, and then I'm gonna give you probably a canonical option. So I actually don't care if a student keeps their account, to be totally honest. Like, if there is some way to so we determine data rights in the US through institutional membership. And if that person is at the University of, Pennsylvania for 5 years, I am actually happy for them to have an account, right? Like, it's the Rubin Science platform is actually a great data science.
No, but I'm asking about a kind of different thing. A high school student comes and works for me for 4 weeks.
Yes.
Do you want them to have an account forever? Maybe the answer is yes, but
you can ask us to offboard people, but you'll have to ask us, because we have no way of knowing that somebody's a summer student. I will say that if you said that we want to do a massive summer school, I don't know, attached to the AAS meeting with a bunch of all comers, to be totally honest, I would be tempted to set you up a dedicated RSP just for that. We've done this before. We've set up a demo RSP with a limited data set, because obviously, nobody's going to get the Nobel Prize through their high school summer experience. It's almost certainly educational. So we have done that before for large meetings when we cannot determine data rights because we're not going to check everybody who's at a conference. LSST Europe, we've done a pop-up RSP with limited data that can be used for educational purposes, but not research. So I don't want to be doing this every week, but for like significant major activities like LSST Europe, I think it's reasonable. Otherwise, you have to tell us that this person was we have no way of knowing that this person is a high school student. So you have to tell us.
There's no different classes of users.
No,
basically.
I mean we could have. I mean, I don't. We could have classes of students. Classes of students. We could have classes of users that get wiped every so often. That is an intriguing idea for the note keeper. So I'll have to think about that. Gosh, you guys spend a lot of time thinking about this, and I'm like, can I give them bulk cutout service? So clearly I'm worried about the wrong things. Eric.
I have like 4 questions in the queue, but I'll only do one right now. Don't worry.
And then I'll show one thing, and then I'll show one thing, and then we can do all the questions you want.
So I'll just start with the most regular one. So I found Meg's question fascinating because the exact same question in slightly different ways has also been posed to the Roman, the other RSP, as I said earlier, the Roman Research Nexus, and Tyke, right, the other mass science platform. And it makes me realize like this is not just any one of these platforms, right? What we really need is a way that you can say, Meg has 200 people here for the day, and I should be able to use that same list for Roman, Rubin, and Fornax, whatever, right?
My authentication guy is crying right now.
Probably, but I think the question is like, pull past the like technical, even political concerns here, right? Is this something we should all be thinking about? Is this something we should be working for? Or are you like, no chance in hell, never?
So this is a great idea. I like this idea. We should talk about it in the Science Platform Buddies pub night, because it is a genuinely difficult problem. Like even VO doesn't have a real answer for this. Authentication, authorization domain interoperability is genuinely a hard problem, and I'm only a poor jumped up astronomer. And so you're right. I think we do not in this field have an answer to that question. And that would be great to think about it when, I'm not commissioning a telescope, but great. Russ, yeah, go ahead.
I just want to say that the authentication and authorization community at educational institutions have collectively been working on this problem for 30 years and do not have an answer to it. So I just want to set people's expectations that the chances that astronomy is going to comprehensively solve this problem, given that people have failed to solve this problem for 30 years, is probably not very high, but we can try to do some practical things that will make individual problems easier.
Ross, by the way, it was senior security at Dropbox before we stole him. So when he tells you that brighter people than me have been, thumping their head on a problem, he's probably correct. Can I show one thing, and then I swear to God, all the questions that you want. I'm only sharing the. That's annoying. Let me reshare. Oh yes. Okay. Okay, so web dev, right? What can I only share one thing at a time? So web dev is a way to mount your space in the science platform from your laptop. I was assured this was a killer app that everybody wanted, Mario and Merlin. Okay, read the data newsletters. And there was also a banner saying web dev now available. Okay, all right. So if you have any operating system ability to, am I exposing my menu? No, I'm not. You can use Finder. You can use whatever file browser your system has. It's a very generic service. It's not astronomy specific. And if you please, where's the Zoom? If you want to, okay, all right. It doesn't work on Delta Airlines, okay? Yeah, okay, if you go to rsp.elasticity.io, okay, but in any case, web dev, documentation, here's how to set it up. Please use it to make me feel better about my priorities, because I look like an idiot that I was telling the guys this. We have to get this out. within 1 week of DP1, and then they're looking at it and going, nobody's using it. I had to actually use it myself to make sure the system was working because they had 0 users on it. So do that. Okay, we have 11 minutes till the photo. So over there.
I think it's on. Yeah, okay. So still around the problem of having shared spaces between different users. Is it possible right now or maybe in the future to have for these users customized code environments with maybe additional packages installed that they can use? Also maybe expanding a little bit the data storage that each user as a single user can use? And as a follow-up question, will it be possible also to run job asynchronously using these packages that users can install on the RSP?
Okay, this is a very big question. I'm gonna give you the short answer, and then you can always track us down the rest of the week for the full answer. So you can customize your user environment. You can add additional packages. There is no current way provided, besides telling all your mates to pip install the same package, to share the same environment among a group of users. It's an interesting thought. I'll have to think about that. Your container that contains your notebook and your terminal and your CPU allocation currently cannot be assumed to be a long-running resource. The way that you run asynchronous services are through the computational services like the cutout service. And it is in the far roadmap, because remember the roadmap goes into the distance. There's a proximate roadmap, which is stuff that I have to have ready by DR1, or else Gregory will have to commit ritual suicide from embarrassment. And the stuff that we want to do after that, in the after that regime, we are looking at a bunch of asynchronous data computation things to expose. Ideas for this include DAS clusters, asynchronous, but basically batch notebook execution, which is probably the closest thing to what you're asking for as a service. And we are clearly seeing that people want to do that. So it's in the gosh, people want something. What does this even something look like phase? But it's clear that over the duration of the survey, there is going to be a need for that. I will say that formally, the project also has a user badge system for significant computational resources planned that actually is outside the RSP. It's actually associated with the data processing clusters at USDF, but that is also not currently ready. So we do see a lot of requirement for computation. I will say that personally, my wish, did I get to ask for something? My wish list is, I see already a lot of what I would call repetitive user-to-user usage. In particular, my concern is that I'm going to have 7,000 users, all of which are doing 1 billion cutouts to train their neural networks. And so I think as a community, in order to save like the same billion cutouts, so as a community, like if we want to save the polar bears and also my bill, it would be really good if the community could self-organize some training sets that are, useful, so that everybody isn't generating their own training sets. That seems like, I already see it. I already see a lot of that kind of repetitive usage, and it would be great if the people who understand why one cutout size is good for one science goal and another cutout size is good for another science goal would kind of somehow self-organize. We could produce and publish a training set so that everybody isn't doing the same billion cutouts over and over. That's the kind of thing that we see, because of course you want to do your thing, but we also see thousands of people doing, currently hundreds, but eventually thousands of people doing the same thing. And we're looking at it going, can they talk to each other? So Hand, where did
I've got the mic.
Oh, you got a mic. Okay.
So we'll try to self-organize. I can't solve that problem, but I do have, and I know you glossed over it because you were making a joke about losing your job, but as a Canadian,
yes,
Rubin has pretty strict rules about data rights and moving from an institution with data rights to one or country or an institution without a path to data rights. We've done a lot of work to be in that system. I'm happy to let users just keep their accounts forever, but you cannot expect the communities to police that because we just won't. So Rubin has got to do it.
So I'm gonna tell you how Rubin does it. I'm just gonna use no judgment except to tell you how the implementation currently works. And that's all I'm gonna say. The implementation works is that a user who has authenticated through their institutional account, like the University of Arizona, and was deemed to have data rights, right? As long as they have a University of Arizona identity, we judge them to continue to have data rights. And when they leave the University of Arizona and no longer have a University of Arizona identity, then they have to demonstrate that they have data rights to another identity. That is basically how it's done. It's done in the US. The international is different because there are in-kind lists of seats that have been provided to international partners. But in the US, it's done essentially through institutional membership. And that is how it is done, and I'm gonna stop right there. Yeah.
Gosh, maybe we can go back to the features of RSP.
Sure. Talk to me about features. Anything else but authentication?
Time domain astronomy, seeing change in the sky. How would I use RSP to see that change? I know that Jeff helped me out a couple of days ago, showing us a composite image of a, what did we call it? A light curve showing variations in intensity or brightness over time. How do I experience that from RSP? Do I have to build the queries myself or that sort of thing?
Yeah, so, first of all, you need to understand what the actual data products are that display variability. So the variability detection based on difference imaging results in entities called dia sources and dia objects.
Okay, right.
Right. So you would, if you were looking for variable things, you would start probably with a search for dia objects in the area of interest that you have, or with properties that you are interested in, like in bright in particular bands or something like that, right?
Okay.
And then you can retrieve an object ID from the dia object, and then use the object ID to query the dia source table or the dia force source table, and that's a light curve.
I get the picture.
Right.
And you're saying this obviously would be using the features of the portal.
You can do this with a notebook, you can do this with the portal.
Or even my own Python code.
In the very near future, single digit number of weeks, at the short end of that even, we will have direct light curve query services available from the portal.
Yeah. I kind of assumed that the amount of sample data accumulated so far is rather limited, as you said earlier.
It is, but there's one field that has quite a few epochs. So
thank you. That helps me. I appreciate it.
And DP02 already has those light curve services. So if you search the DP02, which is a 5-year simulated survey, if you search the DP02 dia object or object tables, you'll see those light curve services. And if you don't know how to find them, you can come talk to me later. I'll show you where they are.
Okay, so we're very excited for the time domain. It's great to have, buzz right away. We actually greatly enjoyed immediately the science that we saw coming out of the solar system folks. So that was superb and very morale boosting. I have learned the next RCW, I'm going to have one session for authentication issues and one session for actual features that we're building for you guys to do science. And the photo is in 2 minutes, but most of us are going to be here a lot. There's a user committee meeting on Thursday that I will definitely be at, and you can find me there as well. And again, don't be shy about posting in community. Vote on the polls, more than 6 of you. Thank you for using our services and being good users. Actually, we've had basically superb user engagement. Everybody was super nice. Everybody seemed to be happy, and that's really great for us. Okay, thanks everybody.